Hi, folks. Happy New Year. Happy 2018. This is actually my first vlog review in a while. For those who may not be in the know, I was actually sick towards mid-December. I was hospitalized and I was sick held in the hospital for about 2 weeks. So I've been taking the time to recuperate. Um, hadn't been able to go to any movies really. But feeling better. Really excited that I'm back on to speak to my patrons for you guys to record my review of Black Lightning. This is a show that I've kept my eye on for a while. Black Lightning is a DC comic book character that was created, I believe, in 1977 by Tony Isabella. And so the CW, which has the Arrowverse, which includes Arrow, Legends of Tomorrow, Flash. They decided to, the same creators, or I should say the same production team under Greg Berlanti, partnered with Mara Brock and Salim Akil to do a live adaptation series of Black Lightning. Now, if for anybody who knows, the word came out last year when they announced the show. I think originally Black Lightning was supposed to be on Fox, and then, it got kicked over to the CW. I guess, to be in the same home with the other superhero shows. And then the news came out that Black Lightning would actually not be part of the Arrowverse, and we have a lot of these crossover shows with Flash, Green Arrow, Legends of Tomorrow, and so for a lot of us, we were kind of side eyeing Greg Berlanti and his team, like, why would you segregate the only Black superhero show that we have on the CW right now? But yeah, after watching the first episode, I can see why they kind of wanted the separation, and that is actually a compliment to the Black Lightning show. This is not a diss to the other shows of the Arrowverse, whichever one you like. I watch them myself. I'm a big fan of the Flash. But if you're familiar with Mara Brock Akil, she is one of my favorite TV creators. She is behind Girlfriends. She's behind The Game. She was behind also the creator of Being Mary Jane, which aired, which starred Gabrielle Union and aired on BET for about 4 seasons, I think. And the thing that I've always loved about Mara Brock Akil, and also her husband, who is her creative partner, is that I've always felt that they had an eye for bringing Black life and Black representation in their own unique way, in a very authentic way, which is why I was always a fan of their shows. I'm a huge stan of Girlfriends. My sisters and I usually binge watch all the seasons. You can watch all the past episodes on YouTube. But yeah, I still watch Girlfriends at least 2-3 times a year. I was a big fan of The Game, big fan of Being Mary Jane, and I always felt as a Black woman that Mara has a way, of capturing our complexities, our frailties, our strengths, and giving us like these very three-dimensional Black women characters, and also three-dimensional Black male characters as well. So I think Black Lightning was a perfect fit for them, right? Because when you watch the pilot, going back to the lack of connection to the Arrowverse, Black Lightning is blackety black. It is black as fuck, and unapologetically so, and I love that. Do not get me wrong, it is still a superhero show. The show follows Jefferson Pierce, aka Black Lightning. He was kind of known as a vigilante in the town that he lived in, fighting crime. And then he decides to retire in order to raise his daughters, and feels that he can do more good educating the youth of his community. So becomes a principal and raising his daughters, Anissa and Jennifer Pierce. He also has an ex-wife, Lynn. They kind of have like this on and off relationship, but divorced, but co-parenting their children. But yeah, like when you watch Black Lightning, within the first 5 minutes, you're just introduced to this world. I mean, because we all know that, the DC universe, there are multiverses, there's different Earths, right? It's like 52 Earths. But this show is, I think, reflects more the world that we live in, right? Because this show is taking on some really heavy subjects, right? Police brutality, misogynoir against Black women, Black respectability, class differences. I was just sitting there like, wow. Like, I just don't know that these are topics that we could have seen handled as authentically in the other Arrowverse shows, right? I do know there was an episode. There have been a couple of episodes of Legends of Tomorrow that have touched on slavery and racism, so I give them credit for that. But yeah, I mean, I don't think Arrow could ever do or handle the topics that Black Lightning can, and that kind of goes back to what we've been saying over the last couple of years, is the fact that quite a few of these shows in the CW. Oh, Supergirl, I forgot Supergirl as well. A lot of these shows are lacking Black writers, and specifically Black female writers. And when you watch, I was able to watch the first two episodes of Black Lightning. There's no mistaking who is writing these characters, who is creating or who is doing the world building, right? Like, I think in the opening scene or the second scene, Nina Turner, you know what I mean, who's a Black woman politician, very visible. Roland Martin makes an appearance on this show, and I was just like, what? It was wonderful. Like, it was just great to watch a world that has these supernatural elements, right? Like, so it kind of feeds the nerd side of you, right, if you're into superheroes, but it's also very relevant in the way that it tackles these real life modern day issues, right? And in a way that isn't pandering, and in a way that isn't whitewashing or kumbaya. I mean, there's difficulties there, right? And the things that these characters are going through. I think what I appreciate about it is that these are not characters who just happen to be Black, right? No, these are characters that are Black, and it shows how not only race, being a Black man, affects Jefferson Pierce, right? Like, his powers and even his social standing, right? His socioeconomic standing as an upper middle class Black man does not make him immune, right, to police brutality or to racism. And then, what I especially love about Black Lightning is how the women have voices and are portrayed on this show. They're not, like, for instance, Jefferson's ex-wife, she's not just the love interest, right? She's this fully three-dimensional, autonomous Black woman, who, for very good reasons, decided, I didn't want to be married to this man anymore. You can still tell that she's in love with Jefferson, but this is a woman who's very much about her self-preservation and trying to find a way to raise her daughters in this very difficult world, but surrounding them with love. And so I love the actress who plays Lynn, Christine Adams. I think she's wonderful. Cress Williams, who plays Jefferson Pierce, Black Lightning. They really have great chemistry, and I believe them as a couple. I mean, just in one scene alone, I felt the history, right? The history and the conflict and the love between them. And so I am already shipping them, whether they get back together or not. I just love seeing them together. I just think they're hot, and we need more Black, sexy, grown-ass couples like that on television. The two daughters, Anissa and Jennifer, are played by Nafisa Williams and China Ann McClain. I just love them. We've been having this discussion about how there's been really like a lack of Black women superheroes on both the big screen and the small screen. We have Black Panther coming up, which is great, right? Between Dora Milaje and Shuri. We're going to be getting our fill of that on February 16th. But as far on the small screen side, aside from the Vixen character on Legends of Tomorrow, we did have Miss Martian on Supergirl, but as far as the Miss Martian character on Supergirl, I always felt like they kind of short thrifted her. Sharon Leal is an excellent character, and I just was not sure why they did not make her a regular. because that's been sort of my issue with Supergirl, is that it's too white womany. While it is very feminist, I do feel that it's very limited in its depiction of intersectionality and showing more women of color. They could work on that. But yeah, with Black Lightning, you get all of that, right? Not only do you get the representation of young Black women who are superheroes who will come into their powers, with the Anissa character. For those of you who may not know, Anissa is also a lesbian. She's a queer woman of color, a queer Black woman who is a superhero who loves women. And that is a representation that is very rare, both on the big and the small screen. So I am so excited for that. You will actually, the first episode doesn't really touch on Anissa's sexuality. You really get to see that in the second episode, which I cannot wait to review. That will be posted next week. And how they handle that is just so wonderful to me. But yeah, with Anissa and Jennifer, I just love their relationship, right? Because Anissa is sort of like the older sister. Jennifer is sort of like the younger teenager, you know what I mean, who just wants to have fun, and just kind of seeing the conflict between the two of them. Because Anissa is sort of, a little bit more, while she's very radical in her beliefs of social justice, she is a little bit on the conservative side. There's a couple of times where she calls Jennifer, fast ass, you know what I mean, which is what a lot of older women will do. You know what I mean? And Jennifer pushes back against that, you know what I mean? Where she's just trying to find her own autonomy and her own voice, because she's kind of having to live up to these expectations of being Jefferson Pierce's daughter, right? He's the principal. There's a running joke that they call him Black Jesus in the community, and that's a lot of pressure, right, for a young teenager. And so Jennifer's just trying to find her own way, and so she rebels, but in a way that's not obnoxious, in a way that other teen shows portray that. I think there's reasons behind Jennifer's resistance, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how they play that out, as far as Jennifer coming into her powers. But yeah, I was really impressed with the first episode. Great production value. I think the only thing that I was kind of like, is the costume for Black Lightning. I feel it's a little cumbersome. I do know, because Jefferson is a little bit older, he needs more protection, and so he needs more armor. So I'm hoping as the season goes by, his friend who designs his costumes will maybe come up with maybe streamline the costume a little bit. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't have to be, spandex or anything, but something that's a little bit lighter, a lot, because in the fight scenes, it's a little bit clumsy. I like the fight scenes, but they're a little clumsy because of the costume seems so heavy. But yeah, I just love this show. I think that the Akils are doing a great job. I think that these are subjects and topics that need to be discussed. And I do feel that, having a comic book, arena gives you that kind of space, right? In order to talk about them in a very responsible, in a very realistic way, without taking away from the fantastical elements, right? Because there's always been this discussion by some of these comic bros on Twitter that comic books are not supposed to be political, which is crap. Comic books have been political since the beginning of time, right? Captain America was fighting Nazis. You look at any of the old comic books back from the 20s, 30s, there's always been some sort of political debate or political commentary. So I think Black Lightning has created this universe where we have the space to talk about Blackness and talk about Black pain, and that was the thing that was really catching my eye with Black Lightning, is that it is different, that Black pain is portrayed differently and treated differently when it is Black writers and Black creatives that are behind it. It's not exploiting Black pain, it's really interrogating it. And there were scenes where you saw Jefferson, either in costume as Black Lightning or not, where he would have confrontations with the cops, or, fighting the bad guys. And you see the toll that it actually takes on his body, right? Like there's that shower scene where you just kind of see the blood just running down his body, and in a way, it's as if he's internalizing that. He's internalizing that pain while he's fighting to create a safer space for Black people, for his students, his family, for his community. The toll that it is taking on him comes at a cost, right? As not only an emotional cost, but but a physical cost too. And I couldn't help but think about Erica Garner, right? Eric Garner's daughter, who passed away unfortunately a few weeks ago, around the Christmas holiday. She had, I believe she had a heart problem, and went into a coma and passed away. And it opened up these really wonderful dialogues and discussion in the Black community in social media on how fighting for justice and fighting for equality and fighting against anti-Blackness, it's not fun for Black people. It's not. It comes at a cost, at a physical cost, on a molecular level, that it causes us anxiety and depression. And then physically, you know what I mean, you're seeing rates of Black men. It's been alarming to me to see how many funerals. I was talking to a male friend of mine. He's 3 years younger than me. He's 43. He's a 43-year-old Black man, and he's like, I'm going to at least 2 to 3 funerals a year of my contemporaries. These men are not even 50, right? And usually it's diabetes, it's heart problems, all of these health related um, issues. Being a Black person in America is stressful. It is extremely stressful. And then if you're adding, being on social media and having to deal with all the racism and the trolling, it's awful. I mean, for myself, I've kind of limited the amount of time that I've spent on social media because I noticed that it was actually affecting my mood. It was affecting how I felt, right? And I'm wondering if maybe when I got sick last year, if maybe that was a contributing factor. I'll never know. I have no idea. But I know I've been talking and writing about, racism and representation in Hollywood, for over 8 years. And I can't imagine, having to justify my, my representation, having to fight for my representation, having to justify my humanity. Just last week, Donald Trump went and called Haiti a shithole country, right? My parents are from Haiti. I'm Haitian American, right? And I was just like, I'm not gonna get in. I just had to make a promise to myself that I was not going to go on social media or talk to anybody and make a list of all these accomplishments that Haitians or Haitians Americans have made to disprove Donald Trump's statements, right? Because I don't have to prove my humanity to anybody or the right that I deserve to be here. White people never have to justify their humanity. And yet people of color and marginalized people, we always have to do that. And so, and again, that goes back to the stress and the fighting. And it's awful. But I feel that Black Lightning understands that, right? And by using Jefferson as a metaphor for that, like he's like the living embodiment of being in a Black male body that is constantly a target, right, in this world, and particularly in the world that he lives in. I feel like the Achilles have that. They've gotten it dead on.